Hello, everyone. You've tuned into the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance, Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Alliance. We want to thank them for their continued support of the Indiana State Police Roadshow. My good friend and partner behind the scene, Tom Trowell, putting us on the Indiana State Police YouTube site. Make sure you go there and check out all the videos that Tom's put on there for us. There's a whole plethora of videos that Tom has placed on there. You like that? I used that big word, didn't I?
Plethora. You pulled a big one out of the toolbox there, Rich.
With me today is my good friend, Sgt Anthony Emery. Anthony, thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming out here on this cold day.
Always happy to help, Rich.
And Sergeant Chris Lambert from the Scuba team. We've had him in here recently talking about some cold weather tips for ice safety, and we're going to kind of combine some things here on that. We're going to talk about cold weather driving and safety tips that you need to adhere to when you're out on the road. And then we're going to talk to Chris, too, about if something would happen and your car accidentally goes into the water, what you need to do to survive that crash into that water and how you can get yourself out of there. So let's start out, Anthony. You had quite a few years, and we were talking before we came on the road here. You guys worked together beforehand.
Yeah, back when I was on the city and Chris come out of recruit school, we were in the same area.
You were on Chesterville PD, I understand, and he was just coming out of there working for Killer Kowalski.
Yeah,
Kowalski.
That was a name from the past, isn't it?
Yeah, we were just laughing about some of the stuff we did. It seemed like a lifetime ago.
Yeah,
so that was a long time ago.
It flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It goes by quickly. But let's get into this about some tips for the stranded in cold weather. And first off, we've had temperatures below freezing here for quite a few days. They're talking about it into next week. It's supposed to warm up a little bit, but it could drop back down again very, very quickly. And so if you see somebody stranded along the road and there's some certain things that they should have in that car or be prepared to do before they take off to make sure that they survive that breakdown that they've had, what would you suggest, Anthony?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is check out your weather forecast. You and I have talked about this before. We've had that person out there involved in a slide-off stuck in a ditch that said, wow, I didn't know the roads were this bad, or I didn't know we were getting this kind of weather. Just something as simply as checking out the weather forecast to know. Listen to your local news stations. They'll tell you if you shouldn't be traveling or if you are going to travel, what to expect. So, again, that's the first thing that I'd recommend.
With the weather apps that you can get on your phone now, it's pretty easy to have.
Absolutely. Just about everybody has a smartphone anymore. We see that all the time. Everybody's got one in their hand, so you can check that, get updates regularly for that as well.
And I think they'll push those out to you. If something bad is coming into you, you're going to get an alert on your phone.
Absolutely. It's going to pop up and tell you what to expect and what's coming up.
Yeah, in your area. That's a good thing to have and to push out. What's another one?
Make sure you have a full tank of gas. I just had this conversation with my son, and Chris was talking about this just moments ago.
Yeah,
about
his son.
Yeah. You got those young folks, teenagers or early 20s, that they like to run it right down to the fumes.
Fill it up when the light comes on.
Yeah, or even after, because I know I can go another 25 miles with that light on.
Yeah.
So definitely with the cold weather, there's water that gets in the gas tank that mixes in with the gas, and you get that down to that quarter tank or less. You have the potential actually for that to start freezing in there. That water separates from the gas, and you can have problems. And not only that, what if you get stuck in that snowdrift or you get stuck in that backup because of a crash? We've seen that out here. Just recently, we had a fatality, and the interstate was shut down for quite some time. If you're sitting there and you've only got a quarter or an eighth tank of gas, you're going to be in trouble if that roadway shut down for any time.
I was reading a news release yesterday from Ann Wojcik up there in the region, and they had whiteout conditions up there on I-90, which is pretty common up
Absolutely.
there in the lake effect snow, and they had to shut down the interstate for several hours. So if you're on fumes when that happens, that could happen or be a bad situation very quickly.
Yeah. One of the other things, and I used to roll my eyes when I was a teenager, and my mom, she would literally have us a winter survival kit to put in the car, and she always gave us one of those big fat candles with a lighter and a little saucer. That was all. She put it in a bag and keep everything in there. And she said, you could keep yourself warm with that. And I used to just think that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Fortunately, I never had to use that. But that's just one of the things that you can truly have in the vehicle with you. But go through a survival kit and have that with you in the car. And that can include something as simple as a candle and a saucer and a lighter.
Right.
You can have blankets, newspapers for insulation. I mean, we see homeless people do this. They're living out here in this weather. We see them. It does work. Have jumper cables. One of the most important things you mentioned, Rich, that everybody has a phone. So make sure you have a phone charger.
Right.
we all know that we use these, and these things go dead pretty quick if you're on it all the time. So if you got a phone charger in there, you can use it. Even have some water bottles and some maybe like some protein bars, things like that aren't going to go bad. I know a lot of troops that sometimes we get stuck out working and can't eat. They actually carry MREs in their trunk. Do you carry MREs, Chris?
I have one in my trunk.
I almost knew it.
Most of the divers will have
absolutely
MRE in their trunk,
yeah,
along with a change of clothes and a blanket. And
there you go. So
that's going to work out tremendously, and you don't have to heat them up, and you got all kinds of energy there with you, but you can't heat them up. All you need is the water anymore.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, you can go to just about any Army, Navy surplus store and get the little pit shovels. Yeah, carry that with you. Put that in your trunk. It takes up no space. You can dig yourself out of a snowdrift. Maybe some sand for weight. A lot of people carry that. Or cat litter. That can help with traction back there as well. And jumper cables. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
We are hearing a lot of people, even our coworkers. Well, as a matter of fact, I think I told you a couple weeks ago that I come out, hadn't started my commission in a few days, and the battery was dead. Mm-hmm. So this cold weather drains that power on the battery. So make sure you have some jumper cables. And a flashlight.
Flashlight's Absolutely. A big thing to have with you to make sure that you don't something happens at night. You got to have that light so that you can see around there and make sure that people can see you. You guys still carry the flares with you? That's one of the things that I did.
Absolutely.
I mean, from day one. Yeah, you can have out there at night if you need to see to get something started on some things. But what about if you do get stranded? Should you get out of your car, go try and find help, or stay with the car? What are you suggesting?
If you have heat, our recommendation is that you stay in the car, especially if the motor's running and you have heat. Most vehicles are going to use a gallon or less per hour while it's at idle. But make sure that the car is ventilated. So if you're going to be in there for an extended period of time, make sure that you do crack the window, let some fresh air in there. We don't want carbon monoxide being an issue as you're sitting there. If your vehicle is not running and you start getting cold, you're going to have to make a decision. If you got a cell phone, you got someone coming, then stay with the vehicle. It is your best protection out there. But again, if you have a gas station that's half mile down the road and you're starting to freeze, it might be time to go ahead and make that decision to go ahead and start making that hike. But again, if you can and the vehicle's running and you can stay warm, that is going to be your best source of protection, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere.
Probably one of the best things you can do before you start your trip is to let people know what your route of travel is going to be.
Absolutely. How many times have we received that call at the post where someone did not arrive, family member calls, and they have no idea which route they were going to take, what their plans were. So have those discussions with the people, your family members or friends that you're going to visit at your final destination, so that they know what your route of travel is. Or if you're going to make a side stop, a lot of times we get that call and they had no idea. The person at the last second got that idea. I'm going to go over and see my friend Joe that I haven't seen in 2 years.
Exactly.
And they end up staying over there for a day or two, and family and friends have no idea where the folks are. So definitely know your route of travel. So again, it gives emergency responders at least a starting place.
Yeah, somewhere to start out to start looking for people. Well, again, you're listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance, Cops for Kids. We're talking about cold weather survival, and if you're out there in your vehicle and something happens, you break down, you have that flat tire or whatever, what to do in the event of that. I got Sgt Anthony Emery and Sergeant Chris Lambert here with me. Car service is a good idea. AAA, one of the other car services that you can get a hold of to come out and take care of you. Not only do they come out and take care of you in any kind of weather, but you got some extra lighting there for you also to help out too. So that would probably be a good idea to have with you.
Right. And something else a lot of people don't think about, if you're broke down at night, turn your dome light on. A lot of times people are driving down the road and they have no idea if that's an abandoned vehicle or if somebody's actually in it. And we do have some good Samaritans out there that will stop and give a hand sometimes if they see somebody in the vehicle. So that's always something to do as well.
Well, Chris, let's kind of switch over to gears here to your expertise here. And we've had this happen, unfortunately, here recently in the Indianapolis area, but somebody gets lost, disoriented, slides off onto the ice in their vehicle, and the vehicle breaks through. What's your suggestion? What do they need to do?
Regardless of the air temperature or the weather, whether it's warm or like it is now freezing cold with ice on the pond, they need to follow the exact same steps that we teach in some of the presentations that we give, which is seatbelts, windows, children out. The first thing you need to do is get the seatbelt off. It helps you survive the crash, but it's not necessary anymore. You're not going to be tossed around inside the car. You need to get the seatbelt off, whether it's pushing the button or using a knife or some commercially available seatbelt cutter to remove your seatbelt. The next thing you need
have you got one of those with you? You can show that.
One that we use. This is a Rescue Me. I can either hand it to you so it gets on the camera better.
We'll show it to Tom. He can put it on there also.
But that is a spring-loaded window punch.
Okay.
And it does have a seatbelt cutter that's under the little black loop.
So you just keep that maybe someplace where you can just pull it easily.
Hang that. We suggest that you hang that from your rearview mirror on either a piece of paracord or a zip tie, so it's always in your line of sight, or it's always obvious,
Visible.
very visible. Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. You
Right.
If you do it in your glove box or in your Mac compartment, you're going to forget about it when you need it.
Right.
But then your children. If you got children in the car, gather your children, oldest to youngest, and the older children can help the younger children. But gather your children. Then the windows. Seatbelts, windows. You have to either roll them down or break them. It's going to be about a minute or so once the car hits the water, where before the water gets above the sill of the window. A car with electric windows, they will typically still work, but roll that window down as long as the water hasn't come up above the sill. If you need to break it, again, you're going to have to use a commercially available window breaking tool, or you can use maybe a pocket knife, the metallic part of your seat belt, the post from your headrest, anything that you can do to break that window out. And then you have to actually get out of the car. If you have children, again, put that oldest child outside. They can help get the youngest ones or younger ones out of the car. If you fall through the ice, get on top of the car. That way you're going to be dry and have a little bit of time to plan. Typically, if you can, and there's still some solid ice, you might have to dive out onto the ice.
Right.
What we call a PD, similar to Pete Rose, sliding into second base. But dive out onto the ice, keep your body flat, roll in the direction that your car came. That's probably the thickest ice. If you need to actually swim towards shore, just be ready for that.
Yeah.
You're going to get that cold shock response, so you are going to gasp. Try to get that breathing under control, but realize you're going to have about 10 minutes of active muscle movement. So you're going to have 10 minutes once you get that breathing under control to try to swim towards shore if you can. So the seatbelts, windows, children out.
And people always think, and I know you guys have done studies on this too, that the electric windows aren't going to work. They work for some time, don't they?
Yes, they do. Most of your lower end electronics, what I say lower end, directly off the battery, whether it's your windshield wipers, turn signals, things like that, they will work for a considerable amount of time, even underwater. We can only tell you stories of recovering vehicles that have entered the water within an hour or so. The windshield wipers are still working and the lights are still on. Your windows will work until the dashboard floods.
Okay.
They're a little bit more of a higher end electronic. So until that dashboard is covered with water and that computer module that's in the dashboard is flooded, your electric windows will still work.
Well, that's good to know. And probably one of the things that you discussed about this, what to do, but this could be done on dry land. You guys could rehearse this with your kids, and it probably needs to be rehearsed, doesn't it?
It is just like a fire drill in your house. Most people have never rehearsed that. They talk about it, but fire drills in your own home, you need to practice. You can practice this on dry land. They can go to our website, the state police website, and see the videos posted.
Right.
And it'll show you the steps
To do.
to complete.
I want to give this to Tom so he can get this on the camera. What's this called again, Tom? Or Chris?
That particular tool is the Rescue Me.
Can you get that on camera there? The Rescue Me, and that's available commercially?
Commercially available. I think that I'm not for sure, but maybe Ace Hardware.
Okay.
Is that or True Value Hardware? Some of the stores around will have it in the like impulse buy lanes up close to the cash registers, but you can find it on Amazon, eBay, different places like that. But it's manufactured, at least it used to be manufactured up in Otterbein, Indiana.
And I think probably you get with any junkyard that you would know around, they would probably let you come in and try that with your kids to see what actually is going to happen when you punch that window or when you cut that seatbelt, how to actually do it. That would probably be something that they need to practice also to see what's going to happen that way. That's a good idea. Well, guys, we're down to our last minute. Thanks for being in here today. I appreciate the cold weather tips, and hopefully nobody has to use these and we don't have anything happen this winter, but it's good to know. And again, it's like we always talk about, have that plan in place, right? Be able to move.
One last thing, Rich, bring your domesticated pets in during the cold weather.
Absolutely.
We're seeing more and more stories. These pets dying, or cats and dogs have been domesticated and they can't survive in this cold weather.
Absolutely. Good idea. Good idea. Well, again, you've been listening to the Indiana State Police Roadshow, brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance. Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the Indiana State Police Alliance. I've been my guest, Sgt Anthony Emery, Sergeant Chris Lambert. We've been talking about cold weather tips when you're out on the road, and if you should have the unfortunate incident where your car gets into the ice, make sure that you heed these warnings. We'll talk to you again next week. The Roadshow is out.